mulligan for it.
And we also see in this Izzet Prowess 2 copies of Drake Atcher. Talk us about this card. What is the purpose of the card here?
So the Prowess players predicting that the mirror matches would be the most common match to be played, and the Drake Hatcher having 3 toughness. This is a 1/3 that can create, when it hits the opponent, it can start creating drakes. And since it's a 1/3, it means that you can't really touch it in the mirror match because you have your burst lightnings and torch the towers at removal spells. And the Drake Hatcher just hitting once can already create a huge board. Combined with a Monstrous Rage, that's like two flyers coming in already there. So the Drake Hatcher is one to keep an eye out for.
We did see that being removed immediately, that little order that was created by the Storm Chase talent, Green Bubble taking care of it. And there it is, the card of the moment.
The Steel Cutter. So this is going to be quite an important piece here, as we mentioned to the matchup. Adrian's hand wasn't actually looking that juicy with just a sleight of hand and a Hearth Elemental. I think that even looks like a mulligan. But yeah, decided to keep that and then just top deck the Steel Cutter, and it's now ready here. Obviously, you see the 1 copy of Grim Bubble from Mathieu. From Mr. Tassa, deal with the deal with the auto token.
And here our Esper Pixie player also playing a bit of more enchantment deck as well.
Yes, because there is the entity tracker we actually see in the hand of Mathieu, which will allow him to just draw extra cards. There's both the stock ups and the entity trackers as a way to have card advanced engines into this Pixie deck, leaning away from being this more aggressive decks we saw at the last Pro Tour with the optimistic scavengers and such, and now is just fully all in on being a grindy deck that is trying to leverage all of these card advances engines by using Pixies and Sunpearl Kirins to pick up enchantments that have good enter the battlefield effects. Like this Nowhere to Run, which did take care of a Monastery Swiftspear in response to the Prowess trigger there. Luckily for Mathieu, there was no Monstrous Rage to punish that play, and but there was a monk token being generated from that Kari Steel Cutter.
And that's the power of the card. I mean, you just start getting advantage compared to your opponent, and 1-for-1 is not going to do it here for Mathieu.
Yeah, Adrian has a very interesting card here, the Hearth Elemental. The adventure on it allows you to play 2 mana, discard your hand to draw 2 cards. And Adrian's hand is just 2 more lands other than that Hearth Elemental, so might just be priced into making that play here. It's not very, it doesn't feel very good to just turn those 2 lands into something else. But if you do draw another card off of this ability, you can trigger your Kari Steel Cutter again, and that's essentially what Adrian is trying to do every single turn of this game.
Prowess here as well, so let's discard our hand, but Mathieu deciding if there's something.
Yeah, if Mathieu's deciding to respond with a Nowhere to Run or not, but I think Mathieu would prefer to not use the Nowhere to Run yet, instead running out the entity tracker now that there is the mana available for it, and then follow up with the Nowhere to Run. Actually, Mathieu is in kind of a trouble here, because there's only 1 black source on the side of the board, and here we see the Drake Hatcher triggering the Kari Steel Cutter. And you can move over the equipment, but actually you might not be supposed to, because now you have 2 2/2s, and if you attack with them, then they're just gonna get eaten by the entity tracker here. So even though this is open deck list, I think maybe Adrian forgot about the entity trackers being in the deck and is now giving up a monk token.
Okay, blocking here 1 of the tokens.
Yeah, taking 2 damage is Mathieu, and feeling pretty good to get away with that. Another black card drawn here, though. There's also, it seems to be a second entity tracker in hand, and you probably can't go that greedy where you try to play out the second one yet. So yeah, gotta play out the Nowhere to Run, hoping to draw a black source. I think that is acceptable. It is a tap land, but it means next turn you can actually play 2 black enchantments if you need to. Clearing up that Drake Hatcher, making sure that it doesn't get a bunch of incubation counters and start to make 2/2 Drakes with flying.
Both players here at 6-0, so they already are into day 2.
That's true. Yeah, this is where the leaderboard is really condensing at this moment. There aren't that many people who are at 6-0 at this moment. It is 16 people at this point are undefeated. So that means that we'll actually have exactly 4 people at 8-0 at the end of this day. It's a huge tournament, thousands of players.
That's true. Over 1,000 players here in Bologna for this regional championship. 36 will qualify for the Pro Tour. And I mean, honestly, the Matteo deck really getting a lot of value.
Yes, right now Matteo is set up to actually outgrind this Curry Steel Cutter. I wonder if that's part of why the entity trackers were put into the deck, because it gives the Pixie deck another way to interact with this continuous card advantage from the Core Steel Cutter generating creatures.
Swift Spear here and another Storm Chase Talent, so that Steel Cutter is going to get another Monk.
Right, and Adrian just building the board here. Currently doesn't have anything good to get back with that Storm Chaser's talent. Has only drawn a single instant and sorcery. Quite uncharacteristic for this Izzet Prowess deck, with just a sleight of hand in the graveyard. So the ability for Storm Chaser's talent to buy back an instant sorcery later aren't going to be as impressive as we would normally have hoped. But it is 4 Prowess creatures in play right now. The deck really living up to its name in that sense. And this is a 3/3 Monk now. With the Core Steel Cutter, Adrian deciding not to equip the Steel Cutter to the new Monk this time around, so that the Monk can attack through the entity tracker, utilizing that Prowess effect. And now can re-equip it as he sees fit.
How much does this Art Elemental cost right now? Because I cannot really see the graveyard. But
no, there's just one instant sorcery in the graveyard, the Sleight of Hand. So it costs 5 mana. This is not really part of the equation yet.
Not yet, but we can always change the equation.
That's another, like, no, in this matchup we cannot change the equation. Nice try, though.
I know.
I think there's another entity tracker in Matthew's hand, and I wonder if he's actually interested in just playing out that one and then playing the Nowhere to Run. Because Adrian has no cards in hand right now, so the Hopeless Nightmare, I mean, it still draws cards, but it's not that exciting. Getting the second entity tracker down and then playing Nowhere to Run, getting rid of probably the Swift Spear might be kind of nice. But Matthew's saying, deciding to wait and see what is better to hit at instant speed, of course. This play, both cards have flash, so you can't just wait and see if there is a better target presenting itself. Or maybe you could disrupt a Monstrous Rage if you wait.
Very good here, Mathieu waiting for the perfect time to use those cards. And now we see Adrian tapping 4 mana for that level 2 of Storm Chase Talent. Can get back that Sleight of Hand. And yeah, that's back into end. Not the best turn for Adrian here, but trying to develop something for the following turns.
Yeah, I think you might even want to hold on to this Sleight of Hand, because triggering Prowess once isn't actually going to affect that much, and you're not going to be able to play a second spell. The issue with waiting is that, well, actually this way you also end up with a card in hand, so you're vulnerable to Hopeless Nightmare. So I actually wonder if you're supposed to just pass there with the land and the Sleight in hand held back, so that if you get hit by Hopeless Nightmare, you can discard the land, and you'll have the Sleight of Hand next turn to try and set up an actual big attack with all of these Prowess creatures. Because essentially, right now, this level 2 of the Storm Chaser's talent is going to end up accomplishing nothing because of the Hopeless Nightmare that is coming down next turn. Of course, Adrian doesn't know if there's a Nightmare coming or not, but at least knows that there wasn't a good turn to play the Nightmare so far into this game.
Yeah, and Matteo deciding here exactly how to play this turn. So playing the creature first and then going to draw 2 cards with this Nowhere to Run. Oh, yeah, wow.
I'm very happy with the way this turn went out. Just need to make sure not to target the Swift Spear, because that one is 4 toughness now. But yeah, seeing Adrian end up with a card in hand, only triggering Prowess up to 2/2s, so they can't really attack through. The Swift Spear could have attacked, but it would have then just died to the Nowhere to Run anyways, mid-combat. And that's a hard elemental being discarded there, so still only one single instant sorcery in the graveyard for Adrian here. I guess can still play the Hearth Elemental next turn, but it is not looking too great. And that is a stock up. That is a this town ain't big enough. There's so many options here. This town ain't big enough can bounce a token and a Nowhere to Run. Or a and a Nowhere to Run, killing another thing and drawing 2 more cards from Matteo. So the game is completely taken over by this Esper Pixie deck and this card advantage engine.
Oh, wow.
Created by the two these two entity trackers.
Returning the 2 nowhere to runs with that discounting big enough.
So technically this is more value because the second one will also draw 2 cards. I don't think it's necessarily necessary. It probably would be better to just kill off the token and have slightly fewer cards in hand. But you know what? Why resist the value?
Win the game or draw 20 cards.
Yes, exactly, yeah. Which one do you choose?
I choose to draw 20 cards, of course.
Yes, and previous versions of me would have said win the game, but now that I'm a control player, I am with you.
You are now one of the control players after 1 game with Jeskai control. I love that, Simon. I must say, a 1 mana O+ Nightmare, 1 mana, enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card, loses 2 life, and you draw 2 cards. Seems very good to me.
It is quite insane. I wonder if Adrian can get out of this situation by leveling up his talents to 3 and then trying to get there with the Otter tokens. That might actually be a way it can happen. The issue is that it's quite weak to this town ain't big enough. There's a lot of ways for Matthew to interact with that. It's quite slow and clunky, but it does give you a power spike where you can potentially essentially storm off, create a bunch of creatures, and maybe get back into this game.
I guess it's other winning condition here with this 3rd chapter.
That's a delicate joke. And Otter.
I'm very bad with my puns, I know, Simon.
No, I like it. No, I'll give you a solid 3 out of 10 for that one.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. I'll promise, like, when we casted, this is our 3rd event together, and I'm already 3 out of 10. In our 10th event together, my puns will be 10 out of 10.
Yeah, yes. I'll be on the floor laughing whenever you say something, and it's going to be glorious.
Cannot wait. So, Matthew just has so many options here.
Attacking with the creatures, and here you see Matthew just double blocking the Otter, not even moving his creatures in front, just grabbing the token and putting it on top of his own creatures. And Adrian says, yeah, that was a bluff. I was hoping you wouldn't block, which is totally fair to play in this way at this point in the game. You're kind of trying to see if you can bring Matthew's life total down enough, so maybe you can draw 2 burst lightnings and win the game. The possibilities to finish the game off from Adrian's perspective aren't great here, and this sleight of hand clearly didn't hit the things you were hoping it would. So now we see the fear of isolation, maybe picking up a Hopeless Nightmare and drawing 2 cards. Hopeless Nightmare also drawing 2 cards. This is just absolutely massive.
I mean, at this point, it's too many cards. Are there ever too many cards? Maybe not, but...
Absolutely not. You just have all these available. Is that like 11 cards in hand? It is.
Yeah. This deck
that was a Rain Man count.
Yeah, this deck needs to run the profs.
Yeah, exactly. To go with actually, there has been like previous versions doing Entity Tracker and Prof together to finish the game, but I think people figured out that you didn't really need the Prof to win when you had 11 cards.
I mean,
in
this
hand.
seems pretty good. Storm Chase talent now on Matthew's side. That's going to draw 2 cards, make a little other. And we have the card preview there making a little joke, enter the infinity.
Yes, exactly. That's essentially what's happening here. And as you know, both us casters in the booth as well as the card viewers, which might be Anna, which might be oh, I see it's Anna. He's all smiles. I see him through the screens over there in the background. Yeah, we can just have a good time right now. You know, like you and I, we're having a good time. Anna having a good time. Matthew having a good time.
Adrian not so much.
He's just here. Adrian's just hanging out.
Yeah, I mean, it feels bad, but I mean, come on. These decks, sometimes the Izzet Prowess also does this kind of things, you know? So much value going on.
So Adrian is a player who started playing tournaments recently, but Matthew is someone who has did quite well at the regional championships in Naples, exactly the type of tournament we're playing here. Qualified for the Pro Tour in Amsterdam, and you know, showed up there, and that's like. And that's the sort of like storyline that these players are trying to go for. These like getting to play at the Pro Tour. Matthew already having achieved it once and wants to do it once more.
My favorite part from these events is always seeing the players here in Europe over and over again. We start seeing these familiar faces and players, new players, old players, coming here together, trying to qualify for the Pro Tour, for the World Championship, and it's lovely to see these players also grow and do better and better in the tournaments.
Yes, absolutely. It's like nice to see the names. There was, for instance, we haven't seen him yet. I hope we will see him. Sebastian Saxe,
oh, yeah.
who we saw with almost top 8ing with Mono Green Brute Scale the last tournament. Or did he top 8? With,
I think it did. Or
yeah, he did top 8 with
I think
scale.
so,
Yeah. In the last tournament in Utrecht, and playing blue-red Cauldron here with Arcanus the Omnipotent. So he was doing well earlier. We slightly missed getting him in the feature match area, but hopefully that is showing up. That's the sort of thing where we just create these storylines. We also had, Bartek being picked by Arne for the the fantasy draft, and that's another player who top 8'd in Utrecht, and so we can kind of see these players showing up consistently at these tournaments, and we start to notice, and you start to not just become a player, but become a storyline.
Do you remember when you started becoming a storyline, Simon?
Yes, I do. Do you remember?
No.
I was in the dawn of time. That was in the finals of the World Magic Cup with Team Denmark, where we were extremely far behind, opponent just having like 7 spells in hand. We had nothing, we were just in top deck mode. And then we just top decked Dune Blast into Siege Rhino, into Wingspan Rock, and ended up winning that tournament. And I was wearing this red tie with badges on, and I thought, wow, this is going to be my identity now. I'll wear this tie to every single event forever and ever, and I'll be known as the goofy guy with the tie. And yeah, it turns out I realized that I could actually just make my image about more than just a single object.
Is there like a diss to Yellow Hat?
Yes.
Gab, if you're watching, you heard it here. We now have a Simon Nielsen throwing these at you. Now, let's talk about the sideboards here for the players. Maybe we can start with the Izzet Prowess player, Adrian. What does Adrian have prepared against Esper Pixie? This version that is maybe a bit different than the one we saw before.
Yes, so I do wonder if the Pixie list right now are so slow in controlling that you can get away with boarding in Ral Crackling Wit. This is the Planeswalker that decided to visit Bloomburrow. You know what happens when you visit Bloomburrow? You turn into a cute little animal. And so this is Ral as an otter, creating otter tokens and potentially being the source of card that can actually grind you out in a game that looks like the one previously. You might also want to bring in some number of Torch to Tower. These can take out the flyers, help protect your Ral, but also get rid of the entity trackers. If you can sacrifice a spare token or something that is being targeted, get rid of that entity tracker. But otherwise, not a lot that is like really sticking out as anti-Pixie cards.
What about on the other side? What does the Esper Pixie deck has against Izzet Prowess, which I'm sure that Mathieu here was prepared for this matchup?
He is. There is like, it's possible the 2 copies of the rest are going to come in, and that's not a guarantee. Even though it's a deck with a bunch of non-creature spells, you would think the rest is good, but just having a target is not a reason to bring in a discard spell by itself. You have to have something specific in mind that you have a hard time dealing with. But specifically, the Chorus Steel Cutter is a card you have a hard time dealing with. So the rest is going to come in for that. The temporary lockdowns can also answer the Steel Cutter. And so I think those are the 2 most important cards in the sideboard for Pixie.
Excited to see here game 2, how this is going to play off. I have to admit, really liked seeing game 1 here. The Esper Pixie getting so much value and drawing so many cards. This deck, though, I must say, it's one of those decks that I don't like to play against.
Oh my god, Yellow Hat is in chat. And attacking me, and now everyone else attacking me. Oh no.
Yeah, Simon, you messed with the wrong person.
I messed with the wrong person. Oh my god. Oh, my time is over. I am done. I am dead.
Simon Nielsen.
Do you think I could take Gabriel Nassif in a fight?
Of Magic?
No. No, we played in the last Pro Tour and he beat me savagely. So
okay,
that has been determined.
Outside of Magic. Yes. I think he would beat you just for the fact that you would miss your plane to meet him, so then you couldn't fight.
Oh, Christopher Larson says I couldn't beat him in a fight. Well, I know I can't beat you, Chris, but also probably can't beat Gab. That's fair.
So don't try to get this battle here between you and Yellow Hat. You couldn't win, Simon.
I thought I would have a weight advantage, but yeah, maybe I can't.
You have 2 advantage in Magic next time that you face him in a Pro Tour or World Championship.
Yeah. somewhere down the road.
I would love to have Gabriel Nassif card, so just for that reason, I would love to see Gabe win the World Championship. So
Yeah,
we could have like a
so
yellow
he
ad.
gets to design his own
Maybe
card.
it could be
That would
something like OTJ, you know, like where they had the cowboy ads, but it would be like a yellow ad.
Yeah, well, you just have an entire set that's just like Murders of Kralov Manor,
Yes.
and it's just yellow hats. We call them the hat sets, and the yellow hat set, I kind of like that.
I like it too, but we are ready here for this game. Number 2, we are currently round 7, so the day is going by so fast. We only have one more round after this one for day 1. Players with 18 points or more will advance into day 2, and tomorrow we are back with more action as well, and things get pretty spicy when players try to get into the Pro Tour.
Absolutely, and it's going to be quite hard to top 8 this event. X&2 record is probably what people are going for. That's not only the record to make day 2, but also to make the top 8. So that is what's at stake here. As you see these players, both of them mulligan to 6. We do see the Rel in Adrian's hand here. No Steel Cutter top decked on turn 2 this time. So what are you supposed to do now? I do see an Oblivion Bolt and a Burst Lightning. Is that an Oblivion Bolt?
Land here for Mathieu, passing the turn.
Oh, it's a Ren's Resolve from Adrian, playing 2 copies of that card main deck as another way to generate card advantage. And Adrian deciding not to play it on turn 2 because of the risk that you might not be able to play the card you get off it. It's much better when you have more mana available, but playing right into Matthew's Spell Pierce as well, just as much on turn 2 as it is on turn 1. And yeah, that was a aptly placed Spell Pierce from the Pixie player. Just 1 copy in the main deck of this deck.
I feel like we have a lot of Spell Pierces this tournament.
Spell Pierce is good. And it's funny that the Omniscience players are still showing up that much with Spell Pierce being that important, but Adrian says, might think now, so you just use your Spell Pierce. You don't think you have any more answers for this Rel, and Matthew is just sitting on a Pixie, a Fear of Isolation, 2 this town ain't big enough, and I think the last card is a land. Yeah, it is. So this is sometimes the issue with this Pixie deck. It has a lot of inconsistencies, both in terms of its mana base, but also that you're trying to combine artifacts to bounce or enchantments to bounce with these bounce effects. If you draw too much of just the bounce effects, they don't actually work. Like, there's nowhere to run from Matthew here. Like, he is in a hopeless nightmare at the moment, wishing he just had a hopeless nightmare so that his hand would turn on and actually function.
But this town ain't big enough, so...
This town ain't big enough for 2 people, and it's certainly not big enough for an army of otters coming in, running over the town. And I wonder, like, Matthew is probably just supposed to develop at least one of his flyers here, just his Fear of Isolation, at least. And maybe also the Pixie, just to have free power in the air so you can take out the Rel in 2 turns. But it's... Oh, you do have a second Fear of Isolation picked up here, so you might be able to play out that one, but then you have to pick up a second land, and that's quite painful. So yeah, Matthew says, we just gotta have this be good enough. But with the 2 Burst Lightnings in Adrian's hand, there is a way to take care of that fear. We see Rel doing the -3 ability, allowing him to draw 3 cards and discard 1 card.
That is pretty good here. So Adrian discarding 2 lands, 2 mountains, looks like. Look at those lands, all signed.
I wonder who the signed by. Do you think it's the artist?
I would think so, but I'm not sure. I don't even know what lands these are.
You don't know that it's a mountain?
Yes, I don't know what to say, Simon. Come on.
I was confused.
You think so
what do you mean?
But honestly, sometimes when it's the oiled basics, I'm not sure.
Is it like the APAC lands? Maybe. It could be Kilimanjaro.
Oh, yeah. They are pretty, though.
I guess Kilimanjaro is not in Asia, so maybe that's not totally correct. Anyways, here we see the Burst Lightning going to face, just triggering Prowess, and also putting counters on Rel. This is, of course, the beauty of this card, is that the Planeswalker itself kind of has Prowess. Whenever you play a non-creature spell, it gets a loyalty counter.
Oh, that's true. That's a nice way to look at it. So...
So Matthew here, seeing this opportunity to try and save his Fear of Isolation, bouncing the Rel delaying that for a little bit rather than killing an auto token and bouncing his own Fear of Isolation to save that here. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, still Adrian in a pretty good position, I would say.
The issue is for Matthew that the best play you can do might be the same exact play you did last turn, which is just play a Fear of Isolation and pass with 2 mana up. So you're not really developing your own board state here, while Adrian now has 2 others.
Yeah, Lens is not exactly what this deck wants to be bouncing back.
Oh, that's another bounce effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, the deck is, with the Sunpearl Kirins in the deck now as well, the deck is quite heavy on these bounce effects, and it makes it so much more reliant on actually drawing the Nowhere to Runs and the Hopeless Nightmares.
Yep. So here it is, Fear of Isolation, picking up the land back. And exactly as you said, we have a deja vu here.
This is a lot better of a situation though, because of the Sunpearl Kirin.
That's true.
So that one has flash and doesn't have to pick up anything if you don't want to.
A 2/1 flyer.
Of course, the all these removal spells in Adrian's hand. Oh, now discarding the 2 lands is actually coming back to bite him because he doesn't have a 6th land, so he can't play Ral and represent 2 removal spells.
So Ral enters with 4 counters. Now,
wonder if it's just ticking up again, making an order and passing the turn, or if Adrian wants to get a little bit more aggressive. You can use this Torch the Tower to try and kill the Fear of Isolation, sacrificing your Storm Chaser's talent. Because you have so much stuff here, that's not an unreasonable thing to do, but of course you will get blown out somewhat by a Sunpearl Kirin saving that Fear of Isolation.
attacking here with both otters and 1.
These are 2/2 otters, so you can again Burst Lightning face to get him to 3. And yeah, I guess this is another way where Matthew could just use Sunpearl Kirin here to save it, or can just bounce the Rel again. But I wonder if he's actually pausing now, realizing that it's actually like that this play is just not like getting him any traction. Like his plays are like, you know, fine. His cards are, you know, being used, but the issue is he's not generating anything. This is the exact same spot he was in 2 turns ago. Nothing has changed. Except the Ral is not in play, but in Adrian's hand. Instead, there are now 2 more Otter tokens in play for Adrian, and he has more cards in hand.
Things are not looking up here for Matthew, that is up a game currently on this round 7.
Again, having to play the
I'm having
picking up this case of pilots.
Did you ever see a Ral crackling with -10?
Oh yeah, I've done it in limited. It was fun.
Oh wow. I have never seen it, but it's in my bingo card for this weekend.
Wow, you actually have a bingo card? You mentioned it twice now.
Yeah, I do have a bingo card.
What else is on your bingo card?
Crater Hoof.
Yes, Crater Hoof win, yeah, absolutely.
What else? I don't know. I still Obliterator fighting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm developing it.
That's fair, it's fair. As you see cool things happen, you'll be like, that was on my bingo card.
Yes.
Yes, that's a nice way to play the game.
Do you have anything
I just want to
your...
see a level 3 Storm Chaser's talent.
Okay.
Because it's actually quite good in this Izzet Prowess deck. In the Pixie deck, it just never came up because you didn't have enough instant sorceries to trigger it. But here in the Prowess deck, with all these cantrips, it's actually quite nice. Ral coming down once more alongside the Monastery Swift Spear, and yeah, all of these tokens, they're now 2/2s, and Adrian is probably quite fine to just play this Torch the Tower, maybe sacrificing the Otter that was just created and attacking for 12 damage.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Otters.
And just pointing out, using all 5 fingers to point at 5 permanents in play, saying trigger. The Sunpearl Kirin can come in and save it, but it's too small to block all these creatures here. So it's too small to take out this Ral. So that's an attack that's going to put Matthew down to 1 life, and he needs to draw a temporary lockdown right now. Otherwise, he's done. And because he needs to draw temporary lockdown, it's better to just jump block here, go to 4 life instead. And that is not a lockdown, and you cannot contain this board.
The good news is that now both players have a win, which means that we are going to have a game number 3.
You love game 3s.
I love game 3s because, you know, each deck did their thing. They when you go on camera, you don't like to just go 0-2.
Yeah.
That's just so sad. But if you at least win a game, it's a bit more exciting to show
Makes
home.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, not that you know that, because every time you're on camera, you just win everything.
I lose a lot on camera.
You do?
Yeah.
You have the camera curse?
No. I think I just lose a normal amount on camera.
A normal amount, okay.
Yeah. It's like...
You just happen to be on camera a lot. So
Yes.
then you lose a lot on camera.
Yeah,
Got
yeah.
it. I love it. So players here looking at the sideboard, this is an open deck list tournament. They can have access to each other deck lists.
This is what I like about being in the booth, actually. Because I can be on camera without losing.
That's true.
Yeah. Guaranteed wins all around.
I could say that I'm undefeated on camera, but it's not true, because the one regional championship that I decided to play instead of casting, I lost on coverage.
No! Filipa, no.
It's true. But it's okay. We live and we learn.
Did you learn?
No. But I
You learned to
lived.
be here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But these events are so fun. Just the dream that you show up here and you might end up having a place in the Pro Tour, a spot in the Pro Tour. I know it's a dream for a lot of players. I know, Simon, you've been there over and over again. For you, it's just so normal to go to the Pro Tour, World Championship, all of that. But I'm sure you still remember the first time that you
Yes.
qualified and that feeling.
I did. Yeah, no, that was incredible. Like at the first many times, because I was like really on the brink as these players, like similar to Matthew, like played a Pro Tour last summer, but then was no longer guaranteed an invite for the next thing, and just like trying to like change again these invites, playing in the big tournaments, trying to, needing to top 8 at Grand Prix to get that invite, etc. Like those situations I've definitely been in, and it is tough. I've never won a PDQ.
You
Actually.
never won a PTQ.
No.
Oh, wow. They
I
have
don't
to
think I've
bring
ever
it
top,
back. Just
I don't
for
think
a
I've ever
minute.
top 8 at a PDQ.
I have top 8 at a PTQ.
Yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
I have top 4 to PTQs, so yay.
Nice. Nice.
I'll put that in my Simon never top 8 a PTQ. I did. That's going to be on my achievement list.
Sure. Your tombstone.
I do miss the Pro Tour qualifiers though. They are nice.
Yeah, the ones that are direct. Yeah, those were like quite great. Like you had like once a season there was like one PDQ somewhere in Denmark, and like the entire country like came together to this one event, seeing who could qualify for that one. And it was always the same 3 people.
You and no.
No, it was not me.
The other Simon Nilsson.
Not him either. Neither of us were good back then. Now it's a different story.
Players choosing here whether to keep or move, and they are ready for game 3. Looks like we have turn 1, Authority of
the Consuls. This card lines up extremely poorly against Rel. But let's see if Adrian has a similar game plan as what happened last time. So Authority of the Consuls is really nice if the opponent is trying to do a lot of small, hasty creatures. Because you get to delay them a lot and gain a bunch of life. It is not that great if your opponent is playing a bunch of big creatures. And essentially, the prowess creatures are all huge creatures if you get to trigger the prowess. So it lines up well against the Core Steel Cutter, etc. But it's like kind of a contentious card in this matchup. Of course, it would have been amazing last game, as you could just bounce it back to your hand and enable your cards to work. Here we see the Duress hitting a Core Steel Cutter, but there is a second one in Adrian's hand.
I wouldn't be very happy duressing this hand, I'll be honest.
I wonder if you're supposed to take the sleight of hand. Because Adrian's hand is extremely clunky. You do need, like, you have to look at your own hand and figure out if you can actually take advantage of leaving Adrian with a super clunky hand. But
then
these steel cutters aren't being triggered until turn 4 if you take the sleight of hand. Unless Adrian, of course, top decks something, which is, I think, fairly likely. Like, that's the thing that can absolutely happen. Or you can just take a steel cutter and say that it's like less damage than dealing with 2. Because if your hand is not aggressive enough, you can't really take away the sleight of hand here. It's going to be too greedy. And even though you make Adrian's hand clunky, having a clunky hand in a matchup that's going long is not actually that bad. It might even be an advantage.
So
yeah, and Adventure's hand does not have pressure. It has Entity Tracker and Grim Bauble, so it's a completely different type of game that Matthew wants to play, and it makes a lot of sense to take away the Steel Cutter in this scenario.
the second hard elemental.
That's a Burst Lightning, I think.
Oh, upper sliding, yeah.
I love how Adrian is playing, like, the cards that are known to his opponent are upside down in his hand right now.
Oh, nice. It's a Nice little way to remember what your opponent already saw or not.
Exactly. So it's interesting that the Grim Bubble was not used to take care of the Otter there. I wonder what's the plan that Matthew has in mind for that Grim Bubble later down the road, especially since it doesn't trigger the entity tracker anyways. But it was held.
Choosing here what to do.
So that's a Wrench Resolve, which, and is that a sleight of hand being picked up? Wait, how could it be 2 cards? Oh, right, the sleight of hand was still left in hand. Yeah. So yeah, you could do Wrench Resolve into sleight of hand and trigger your Steel Cutter that way. It seems like not the most unreasonable play. Of course, you want to lead on the Resolve in case you hit 2 lands.
So 1 land and Ral.
That is huge. The Ral coming in here and triggering, and being, as I said, the perfect counterplay to this Authority of the Consuls. Matthew's hand is not at all set up to play this type of game.
No, a lot of pressure here. That Monk does enter tapped.
Yeah, doesn't get to be hasted up, but still is in play. And later down the road, when you play 3 spells in the same turn, it's going to attack for 4. And the Authority of the Consuls won't actually have mattered that much.
So that Otter right now is a 3/3. Attacking here, so it does attack well into entity.
Yeah, Adrian is not going to make the same mistake as before. Now remembering to not get ambushed by entity trackers, and let's see if Matthew can draw a string of enchantments here. There's a stock up, so that could actually help find the enchantment you need. You can use the Grim Bubble here to delay the situation a little bit, take care of that Monk token. And you know that the Ral coming down next turn is only going to buff the Otter to 2, so it can't attack through this entity tracker. So you actually have time to resolve this stock up.
Yeah, 3 mana, stock up, and let's take a look at the top cards.
Is there any enchantments here?
O plus Nightmare and...
and a second stock up, I think?
Yeah, not bad.
It's definitely not what Matthew would want to have here, because once you have an expensive card draw engine in play, you don't want to pair that with more expensive card draw. Ideally, he would have found a nowhere to run or some way to answer the Ral by putting more pressure on. But it'll do for now. Maybe the stock up can find that answer down the road. But yeah, Adrian basically is gonna think about it, just give it a good think. Am I actually supposed to not play this Ral here? You are allowed to give it up. Of course, you're giving up a ton of advantage by not playing the Ral here. But you also have the opportunity to point 2 Burst Lightnings at that entity tracker, making sure that Matthew doesn't run away with the game, similar to what happened last game. So Adrian, maybe scarred from game 1, is choosing to value this entity tracker quite highly, willing to spend essentially 3 cards to get rid of it, 2 Burst Lightnings and the Ral that you won't get to play.
So right now, Matthew is O plus Nightmare, this town in big enough, and a land in hand.
Oh, it's this town in big enough. It was not a second stock up. That is way better for Matthew. Much easier to navigate around this Ral if you have that option. And it seems like Adrian is actually going to go ahead and not play out this Ral here, giving up that card to just develop a bit more to the board, trigger that core Steel Cutter this turn, and cracking in with an Otter token for a bunch of damage.
Difficult choice here.
So now I assume it's probably just going to play both of these Burst Lightnings, taking care of that entity tracker. Actually, you could technically attack first, but I guess Matthew is never blocking anyways. Monk coming down, giving a life to Matthew.
Burst sliding, so double burst sliding to take care of that entity tracker. So 3 spells.
Yeah, it's a 4-power attack here. As I've been saying the prowess creatures, they might look small, but they actually attack similar to green creatures.
That's true. They become pretty stonky.
So that's the awkwardness of Authority of the Consuls. Yes, it did gain you a bunch of life here, because the Monk token didn't also hit in for 3 this turn. But on the other hand, you also, when each of the creatures attack for 3 or 4 damage each, it doesn't take that long to make up for the few life points the Authority gains.
And Authority being MVP here as well, like allowing some...
Oh, this is the beauty of Adrian's play I didn't realize. It allows you to also just play out the Hearth Elemental onto the board, putting a bunch of pressure on here. So purposely choosing not to play the Rel here, choosing not to engage in this sort of like play where you try to milk as much value out of your hand as possible, thinking that this just plays too much into Matthew's Entity Tracker, and instead deciding to just develop a ton of pressure on the other hand there. But Adrian's last card is just a land, so quite reliant on this Stormchaser's talent, being able to pick up a sleight of hand to keep the train rolling here. And it's possible that this Hopeless Nightmare is going to take care of that land even.
Hopeless Nightmare, here it is, and last card, the island.
So I think Adrian, like, by making this play that is quite aggressive, like, did put himself in a position where Matthew is, where his moves are not as good here. You can even bounce the Nightmare and the Hearth Elemental,
and then
getting rid of it that way.
Oh, wow, yeah. That's a good play. So again, that goes to the graveyard. And now Adrian only has that Monk and Otter.
Yeah, just 3 power in play in total. Can top deck a land and get back sleight of hand to make it 5. But that's not even that impressive. And I wonder if Adrian is supposed to level up here and get back Rent's Resolve to try and make this like big turn where you attack for a lot, keeping whatever you draw in hand as well. So in case Matthew has a way to bounce this Hopeless Nightmare, you can always discard that other card.
Adrian considering here what is the best course of action.
Because if you attack for 3 now, and then you put Matthew down to 11, and next turn, I guess you still have to play 4 spells to make these lethal. So it's not very easy to do that.
4 mana here.
Yeah, leveling up this Stormchaser's talent, getting back the Rent's Resolve, and keeping the other card in hand to discard in case there is, for instance, this Sun Pearl Kirin. So Matthew has a choice now. Oh, there's a Monstrous Rage as Adrian's other card. So that actually means that lethal is possible to do. It means he needs to... I think he just needs to hit another spell off this Rent's Resolve, and the attack will be for 12 damage.
That's true. And he will be exactly at 12 life after gaining 1 life from the Monk entry.
Yeah, from the Monk. Yes, true. So that lines up perfectly. So of course Matthew has ways to interact with this, either killing one of the creatures with Grim Bauble or going for the Hopeless Nightmare. So Adrian has to make the tough choice of what to discard here. You probably have to discard the Monstrous Rage, but I'm not quite sure. Because I think you'd rather just want like an extra trigger from the Rent's Resolve. That's an extra prowess trigger is very similar to a Monstrous Rage.
And discarding there the Rent's Resolve. Okay,
just banking on the top, needs to draw some way to draw extra cards. Didn't quite get there, but you can use this Monstrous Rage to push through the Kirin. Matthew is completely out of cards as well. So the advantage of keeping the Monstrous Rage here is that you now have created a board state that is pretty strong.
Matthew does have that Restless Anchorage into play, so that can maybe get something eventually, but...
Right, but whatever creature gets the roll here can be equipped with the Cory Steelcutter and attack for 3, so it actually attacks through the Restless Anchorage. So yeah, we see here, Monstrous Rage breaking through there. This is the card Adrian chose to keep over Rent's Resolve, being highly impactful in this position here. And the Otter is going to get through for 4 damage, and the Monk is going to get through for 3 damage. So it puts down Matthew down to 4 life here with the Trample and all of the prowess triggers.
Yeah, so they are doing some math, so that Otter right now is a 5/4?
Yes.
We trample the 2/1 blocks, 4 damage pass through, as you said. And land was the pickup there from Adrian.
Yeah, not wanting to keep it in hand because there's no reason to allow another Hopeless Nightmare to hit something. But yeah, this is 4 power in play, threatening lethal. Of course, the Restless Anchorage can block 1, forcing Adrian to equip the Cory Steel Cutter onto the Otter, attack for 3, and Matthew will go down to 1 life. Instead, Matthew is saying, I would rather try to draw something better.
Ooh, there's a Lorians that can destroy.
Yeah, scrying with the Hopeless Nightmare here. Can find the Lauren, can get rid of the Cory Steel Cutter or the Monster Roll token. But that doesn't really put Matthew in that good of a spot, and is instead deciding to just draw a random card. If it is an untapped land, you do still survive. I wonder what it is. We're not getting to see it. It might be a nowhere to run. Can Adrian find anything that triggers prowess?
We will find out. The players are keeping the cards to themselves, not revealing us, leaving us on the edge of our seats. Attacks.
Just shrug and attack with both. What do you have? It's a nowhere to run. So that takes care of the Otter with the Monster Roll token. Unless Adrian has some sort of response, it doesn't really take much here to finish off this game. But if Adrian just drew a land here, I guess it can't be a land. There's some posturing. There's some thinking. What could it possibly be? Is it an opt? No? Is it a Monstrous Rage? That would also be lethal, as long as you don't play it on this Otter right now, because the Monster Rolls will cancel out. So you only...
True.
Yeah, just... I think Adrian... I wonder what he drew, because he also didn't play a land and leveled up the Stormchaser's talent.
True.
So it must be something. And here we see the Grim Bubble surveilling 2 now, and trying to hit something, not these discard spells. These are not good enough.
It's a land,
Tapped land.
Tap. That's going to be game, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because he didn't pass with the Restless Anchorage mana up, Adrian couldn't get... Oh, it was the Into the Flood Maw, which can bounce non-land permanents from the opponent. Wouldn't actually be able to do anything against the Restless Anchorage.
Good game here, and Izzet Prowess winning this game here. Adrian now advancing 7-0 undefeated in this tournament, winning 7 rounds in a row. It's not easy, Simon.